The college football experience Dantabase top 25 ranking show on the Sports Gambling Podcast Networks presented by WinBet. Bet $100 at WinBet and get $100 free bet. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WinBet. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET to claim your free bet today. We're also brought to you by SGPN TV. Yes, download the SGPN TV app today. Available on Roku, Amazon, and Apple TV. So do that and let it ride.
Hey, this is Eric Metcalf. You're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Yes. Woo! Welcome to the college football experience Dantabase top 25 edition. My name is Colby Swinging Dantabase Dad, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I smoke and I drink and I don't have stress and I'm healthy.
I don't have stress and I'm healthy, but maybe a little bit of stress making the Dantabase top 25 because, I mean, look, I might contradict some rules of mine here, but it's tough because I feel like the parity among college football is the best it's been, I feel like, since like 2007. So this should be a fun episode. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to GBO Farms joining us. But yeah, I mean, this should be pretty bonkers season. And I do think it has been hard to somewhat evaluate some of these resumes thus far. So that, I don't know. And if you haven't listened to the Dantabase top 25 before, I welcome you, and please subscribe to the college football experience and tell a friend. But yeah, I mean, this is what we do. Is the top 25 is a sham. It is. Anytime you have preseason rankings, it's a sham. But they keep name brands there that I don't think they even watch all of the college football games. And that same goes with the coaches poll. Obviously they're busy coaching. And if you haven't ever seen a coach's life, or been behind the scenes to see that, they have zero time besides the teams that they're covering or their conference that they're playing. It's just ridiculous. All that. So about 5 years ago, I would say maybe 6 years ago, we created the Dantabase top 25, and it's been rolling ever since. We also do it with college basketball. So subscribe, tell a friend. We try to just do it from a resume only standpoint. I had people. I got a 1-star last week on iTunes. Shout out to the fucking idiot that gave me a 1-star for saying I had Georgia behind USC and Tennessee, but I'm like, hey, I'm only basing it off the resume. I don't know. I feel like I'm being fair. Tell me if not, and then tell me where. And look, this is the fun part about college football is when you have 131 teams, it's kind of ridiculous to say, oh, we're going to rank our top 25 teams, like it is a challenge at that. And, we believe we're strong believers in a large college football playoff because we do think schedule manipulation is a big thing in the sport. And we think, long-term that you'll see it when we do get a large playoff. So, anyway, let's hop into it. But before we hop into it, let me tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by WinBet. Yes, bet $100 at WinBet, get $100 free bet. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WinBet. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET to claim your free bet today. We're also brought to you by SGPN TV. Download the SGPN TV app today. Available on Roku, Amazon, and Apple TV. We're also brought to you by FootbaThe. If you watch football, you need FootbaThe. FootbaThe gives you complete coverage of college and pro football with NFL Red Zone plus games in 4K at no extra charge. There's over 100 channels of live sports and entertainment for a fraction of the price of cable. You can watch it on all your devices. Never miss a game or an episode of your favorite shows with the included cloud-based DVR. Plus, there's no contract. There's no commitment. You can cancel at any time. Right now, you can try FootbaThe for free for 7 days and get 15% off your first month. Just go to FootbaThe.com/SGP. That's FUBOTV.com/SGP. All right. Well, my 25th, please do a show where I see the comments. I see the comments rocking here. Please do a show when I read all my 1-star reviews. I should do that, right? I should do that. It's a lot of fun. Shout out to Len in the chat as well. My 25th ranked team is the Florida State Seminoles, right? I actually tend to believe they don't belong in the top 25, but based on resume, they do. They are playing better this year from Mike Norvell. I've been actually really impressed with the fight they've shown. You know, Wake Forest was the better team, but I'll tell you this: Florida State, based on resume, in my opinion, deserves to be there because the fact that they have gone on the road and beat a Power 5, practically 2 Power 5 wins. I mean, on the road, true road. Okay, they went out at Louisville and won. Now that loss looks worse after this week when Louisville loses to Boston College, but they also beat Boston College in Tallahassee, so that win looks a little bit better. They also beat LSU in New Orleans, which is like a 1.5, I would say like 1.7, or I'm sorry, 0.7 as a road game. So together they've played like 1.7 road games. And that's 3 Power 5s they've played. They also played Duquesne. Duquesne lost to Stonehill in the FCS. That's not a good win. But the resume, I mean, the resume is pretty decent considering they've beaten 3 Power 5 programs. So I have the Seminoles at number 25. At number 24, I have the Oregon Ducks. Yes, the Oregon Ducks. Obviously, that blowout loss to Georgia, you know, still looms, or their resume would look a lot better. But that is like a if it was a 1 point, I'm sorry, if it was a 0.7 road game for Florida State. Well, I'm sorry, playing in Atlanta against Georgia is like a 0.9 road game because that's a fucking away game pretty much. Either way, the Ducks have since fixed a lot of their problems, and you know, they beat BYU. That win continued. BYU takes care of Utah State, so that win gets better. They beat Eastern Washington. Obviously, that win they went to Florida and lost. I don't know what that means, but then the Washington State win continues to look good because Washington State smacked Cal. So the Ducks are sitting there at 4-1. They also beat the Stanford Cardinal, but Stanford, that's a Power 5 win, but it's probably one of the worst Power 5 wins. But I do think the Oregon Ducks deserve to be the 24th ranked team in the country. And by the way, check out, I mean, I have this sweet graphic here for what you will be seeing here on this. So if you look right there, yeah, Oregon Ducks at number 24. And yeah, I think their resume is better than Florida State's. Let's just compare it. Let's just play right now. Florida State's loss is to Wake Forest in Tallahassee. I believe Oregon's loss is better. It was the defending national champions, the Georgia Bulldogs, but it's practically an away game there. So then you look at the wins. Okay, Boston College, Louisville, pretty shitty wins. I don't think either team's very good. LSU's win, okay, that looks all right, even though LSU was dominated, but they got the win. They got the win in Auburn. So that win looks better. But I can tell you this, I think BYU and Washington State are better wins. I actually think BYU and Washington State are better. They're probably better than LSU. I mean, they're on the LSU level of wins. They have 2 of them. Florida State has 1. Also, Eastern Washington a lot better than Duquesne. So my logic is there. I actually think if I had to rank all the Power 5s that they've played, LSU, BYU, I think I would favor BYU. LSU, Washington State is tough. I think I might favor LSU, but it's right there. It wouldn't be a big spread. Stanford, obviously I would favor LSU a lot over Stanford, but I would take Stanford to beat Boston College. So that's so, and then Louisville, Stanford, I got no fucking idea who's winning that game. I think I favor Louisville, but that's my logic there on the Ducks being number 24 in the nation. At number 23, I'm staying in the pack. I'm going with the Utah Utes. All right. Now you could argue, hey, Utah. What do you mean? The Ducks resume is better than they didn't lose 49-3. All right. And that wasn't all the way 100% road game. It was like 95% or 97% a road game. Utah went into the swamp, and I thought they should have won that game personally. I mean, I thought they were the better team. Florida won the scoreboard. Shout out to the Gators, but I thought if from a watching the game point of view, I thought Utah was the better team. And they only lost by 3 as opposed to losing by like 100 points, whatever that Georgia score was. Yes, Eastern Washington is better than Southern Utah. The FCS ranks there. And you look at the rest of Utah's schedule, San Diego State, Arizona State, and Oregon State. You can make a case. Obviously BYU and Washington State are better than San Diego State and Arizona State. Correct. However, I think Oregon State is going to be as good as Washington State, if not better. I think they play in like a week. And then I do think San Diego State and Arizona State are better than Stanford. I guess maybe you could say Stanford's better than San Diego State. San Diego State just fired their OC. Either way, the ass whooping to Georgia is the deal breaker for me ranking Utah ahead of Oregon. It's close though, and I can see the argument. At number 22, I got the Kansas State Wildcats. That Oklahoma. See what happened here is they actually dropped a spot, right? And what happened is the Oklahoma win in Norman doesn't look as good because Oklahoma gave up like 700 yards of offense to TCU. That hurts their resume a little bit. And then the fact that also, the Missouri, the Missouri Tiger win looks a little bit better by the way they played Georgia, even though they lost. But so a loss is a loss. It actually hurts their resume more than it helps them. Then Texas Tech, they beat Texas Tech. They beat them by 9. That's an okay win, but Texas Tech still a team with a losing record. And then South Dakota in the FCS, not a horrible team in the FCS, but currently sitting at 1-3 as they lost to North Dakota State this past weekend by 17. So K-State is at 22. Do I believe K-State is better than the 22nd team in the nation? I do, but I'm basing this on resume. Let's hop in to the next up and this one resume played a big deal. It played an absolutely huge deal because I have the Tulane Green Wave at number 21. Tulane went to Manhattan, Kansas and won. In most scenarios, I will take the head-to-head matchup. Not all of them, but in most, it matters the schedule. To me, going to Manhattan and winning, and also the fact Tulane has now played I believe they went to Houston and won with their third string quarterback. So that would put Tulane at they've played only 1 Power 5. True. That hurts them, but they have played 2 away games and 3 group of 5 games. You look at Tulane's schedule, and I think it's a pretty decent resume that they have, especially considering they won in Manhattan. Is Missouri that good? I don't think Missouri that win for K-State. I don't think Missouri is going to be a bowl team this year. Maybe. I mean, they looked all right against Georgia, but I don't think that's a great win for Kansas State. Is the Texas Tech win great? I mean, Texas Tech beat Texas, but they also, lost to NC State. I mean, who knows what NC State will end up. I think that win right now looks okay, but Tulane's resume looks all right now. I mean, yes, they beat UMass. That win sucks. I mean, it's as bad as low as a group of 5 win as you can get. They beat Alcorn State. Once again, not a huge. They're like going to be average in the FCS ranks. They beat K-State at K-State, and they lost by 3 to Southern Miss, which is a better deficit than what they lost by to when K-State lost to Tulane. So The head-to-head win is really the big difference here. And also the fact they've gone on the road twice. K-State's only been on the road once. Now K-State won, but Tulane is 2-0 on the road. Tulane slight edge and the head-to-head battle is the difference for me, ranking the Green Wave at number 21. At number 20, I got the Liberty Flames. Hugh Freeze is doing a fucking great job. He's doing a great job, and they're impressive. You look at Liberty's schedule, 0 FCS opponents. Their only loss was at Wake Forest, and that loss keeps looking better. And guess why they lost? Because they went for 2 in the win. That should have been going to overtime, tied 37-37. No, but they went for 2 in the win. They didn't get it, but I think that loss is really good. It's actually, it makes the fact that Florida State just got owned by by Wake Forest in Tallahassee. I'll tell you, it makes me think Liberty's better than Florida State. And when you compile the other wins, I mean, Liberty just what they've gone on the road they're 3-0 on the road, 3-0 on the road this season. Road wins mean to me the most important thing you can do in college football, because I think that's the hardest thing to do in college football. Win on the road. They win at Southern Miss. They win at Wake. Or I'm sorry, they're not 3-0. They're 2-1. They lose to Wake Forest. So, and then they beat Old Dominion, who is a team that actually has a decent resume. So I think all those plus their other wins. Yes, they beat Akron. Akron's one of probably the bottom 10 FBSs, but it's not an FCS. So shout out to them. And then they beat UAB, who I do think is somewhat decent in the CUSA. Altogether, when you consider their only losses by 1 in a game where they went for 2, where they could have, they could have done what they did and put the game into overtime. They didn't. I think they're a pretty good team, and I think they should be ranked at number 20. I see the chat is rocking along here. There we go. Am I picking UMass to cover this week? Dude, you got to listen to Wednesday night, our picks, our locks episode. Wednesday night, 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, all that stuff, if my math is correct. But so our pick show every single Wednesday night for the most part, unless we have, I mean, it takes like an emergency to change that, but occasionally it does happen. So that is my 25 to 20 rankings right there. Tell me if you agree with the Liberty Flames. So I don't know. I think they look really good. That resume looks pretty damn good. So next up, actually, before I get to the next one, let me tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by the Elias Game Plan app. Yes. Do you ever wish that before every NFL game you could get up to date and accurate information before placing bets or perhaps locking in your fantasy football lineup? Well, now you can with the Elias Game Plan app, the ultimate sports betting and fantasy companion for the NFL, NBA, and MLB. And whether you're a part of a fantasy tournament or just placing bets, or just maybe just a huge sports fan or stat nerd, Elias Game Plan app is everything you need. And if you're wondering, Elias Game Plan, what is that? Oh, it's only the most trusted name in sports, the Elias Sports Bureau. Yes, the official statisticians of U.S. pro sports leagues since 1913. I love it. You got to check out the app. The app gives you everything. You'll get league validated news. You'll get I mean, I really do use this app. Like, it's not one of these ones where you just automatically we're getting paid to do stuff. You know, I use it because I play fantasy football, and for me, I go and I check the key game injuries because I focus so much on college. I don't have the same. I still watch the NFL, but I just don't have the same. I'm a college football guy, college basketball guy. All right. I don't have time for the pro leagues, but I still dive in a little bit. You know what I mean? So I always check out the key game injuries and stuff like that. Make sure I'm not being a bozo and starting a guy who's questionable or something like that. So take this NFL season to the next level and download the Elias Game Plan app. Choose from three game plans essentially when you subscribe weekly, monthly, or annual. But I can get you 25% off your first month when you choose the monthly subscription. Just use the promo code SGPN25. Once again, find the Elias Game Plan app in the App Store or Google Play Store and use the promo code SGPN25. We're also brought to you by PromoGuy.us. Yeah, PromoGuy.us is the best place to go if you're interested in plus EV betting strategies. And I got to say, we've all been looking at the daily promo updates, and they have some of the most informative in the game. They don't simply tell you, what team is more probable to win, but they tell you where to get the best odds, how to track down and cash in big on all the constantly changing promotions. So go to PromoGuy.us and check out their 100% track, transparent, and proven method for betting smarter. So make sure you check out PromoGuy.us. We're also brought to you by No House Advantage. No House Advantage is changing the game by offering the most dynamic fantasy sports platform available today. You can play in pick'em contests versus other people for a shot at winning $250K in cash. Wow. Download the app, choose a contest, select your player props, earn points for corrected picks, and climb up that leaderboard for your shot to win big money every day. You can also test your skills against the house and win 20 times the amount of money you enter if you hit all your picks. And look, it's not just NFL. They got NBA, MLB, PGA, MMA, NASCAR even. All right. Sign up now with the promo code SGPN at nohouseadvantage.com or download the app to get a first deposit match up to $25. All right. We are back talking Dantabase top 25. GBO Farms want to know if I'm moving the recording for the UCF SMU game. No, we are going to be recording in the middle of that. Unfortunately, I don't know what to tell you. That sucks, but we will have a game preview episode hopefully out by then, by tomorrow, hopefully talking about that game as we cover that one in the Moon Bounce Wednesday night. Next up for the rankings part of this, I'm on number 19. So we've gone through once again. If you're look at this right here. All right. We even got a little graphic here. All right. If you're just wondering so at 25 was Florida State, 24 was the Oregon Ducks, 23 was the Utah Utes, 22 was the Kansas State Wildcats, 21 the Tulane Green Wave, 20 Liberty Flames. At number 19, I have the Kentucky Wildcats. The Kentucky Ole Miss game, by far the most entertaining game I thought last weekend. Just fucking hilarious. That was a hilarious game to watch. I know if you're a Kentucky fan, you're probably like, go to hell, Colby, but still very entertaining game. But Kentucky's 4-1 now, and they got hit on a lot of levels for here. Like, really, I'm just giving them that win at the Swamp a lot of love, because I know the Swamp is hard. It's one of the best college football environments, because elsewhere, obviously losing to Ole Miss on the road, they've played 2 Power 5s on the road. Okay. Went 1-1 there. They were in position to win that game. They lost by 3. Not going to dock them too much for that, but it is a road loss in a hostile environment. But they beat the Gators. They also beat Miami, Ohio, and Northern Illinois in the MAC. Problem is Miami, Ohio, and Northern Illinois lost their MAC season openers this past week. So I doctored them a lot of points for that. And their other win, Youngstown State did lose this past weekend. Granted, it was North Dakota State. But Youngstown State still, we'll find out more. They're a decent brand in the FCS. They've had a lot of success, but we'll see. Lately, they've been kind of struggling. So we'll see how they shake out this year. But altogether, Kentucky's resume is not incredible. Comparing it to like Liberty, obviously you have the Swamp win. Liberty hasn't gone into even Wake Forest isn't even a hostile environment. So I do give Kentucky more love there on that. I do think besides that, like, the fact they've played 2 Power 5s, Liberty's only going to be able to play their schedule. However, I think Kentucky's resume is still better than Liberty's, and that's why Kentucky should be number 19. According to myself. Next up, my guy, Mike One Leach at number 18. And this one's going to be scrutinized, I believe. I do have them as the 18th best team in the country. And I look at what the resume is and I say, okay, well, they've been on the road now. They've been on the road twice. So they played 2 Power 5s on the road, went 1-1 in those wins. But they've also now beaten Texas A&M. So they've actually played 0 FCSs so far. Their resume is actually pretty impressive. Now here's the question that I'm sure LSU fans will have. Well, Colby, why is LSU not ahead of Mississippi State? LSU beat them in Baton Rouge, and normally I do value the head-to-head matchup, but the problem is LSU's resume is much worse. Yes, they won at Auburn. A win at Auburn is better than a win at Arizona. I agree. Not by that much though. I think Arizona actually on a neutral site. I think Arizona might win that game, but I think going into Jordan Hare is tougher than going out to Wildcat Stadium. But LSU's played Southern in the FCS. Mississippi State hasn't played an FCS. LSU has played New Mexico. New Mexico does not have a winning record. And that doesn't look like they're going to have a winning record. And LSU has a loss to Florida State. I get it. The head-to-head should matter, but the fact that Mississippi State's resume, Memphis is 4-1. Memphis's only loss is in Starkville. Memphis keeps winning. That resume, that helps the resume. Oh, look at their other one. Arizona, don't look now, but Arizona is playing pretty decent ball right now. They're 3-2. They beat the Colorado Buffaloes. I know that's not saying that much, but I'm saying Arizona's 3-2. It is what it is. Right now they're a winning team, and Arizona had a hard schedule. They really did. They have a hard schedule. So, and then Bowling Green. Look at Bowling Green's schedule. Bowling Green just won this past week. Now they're 2-3, but Bowling Green. My point is that all their teams that they played won this week. And then obviously Mississippi State beat A&M, who obviously lost this week because they played Mississippi State. But A&M has wins against Miami, Florida, and Arkansas. So I think that resume is better than LSU's right now. I do think when Mississippi State plays their FCS, when it all shakes out, we will see LSU hop Mississippi State because I will honor the head-to-head matchup. 95% of the time I do honor the head-to-head matchup. But right now, being that it's so early in the season, and LSU played New Mexico and Southern, I got to penalize them for that. Hope that makes sense. And it's going to be fun to watch Mississippi State. Shout out to the chat 3802 in there. Yeah, it should be fun. Next up at number 17, the last one-loss team in the nation, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Yes, I have them ranked as the highest one-loss team in America. And a lot of that is, I thought Clemson's win looked better. That looked impressive against NC State. Clemson wins by double digits at home against NC State. That makes that overtime loss not look as bad. And also the other, the Liberty game, Liberty continues to roll. And the fact that they went on the road to Florida State and Vandy. So they have 2 Power 5 wins on the road. Granted, it's Vandy, but I got to honor it as a Power 5 win, just like Stanford or wherever. So if USC is going to get credit for winning in Palo Alto, or UCLA is going to get credit for winning in Colorado, or whoever, I was going to get credit winning at Rutgers, then I got to honor the win at Vanderbilt. So the resume right now, obviously, they've played 3 Power 5s. They are 2-1 against the Power 5, and with their one loss being in double overtime, and the Liberty game at a conference, I think is a really good win, as you can see by me having them ranked. So I have the Wake Forest Demon Deacons at number 17. I think their resume, if you compare it to Mississippi State's one loss, and I'm only comparing it to Mississippi State because they're right behind Mississippi State. Or Mississippi State's the team right behind them. If they played on a neutral site, I don't know who I would take. I kind of think I would take Mississippi State, but I do think this Wake team is probably the best Wake team we've ever seen. I think. But Mississippi State's one loss, granted it was in Baton Rouge, it did get a little ugly. That score I do think was misleading, but they lost by 15. Wake's one loss is in double overtime to Clemson, and I also believe that Wake's schedule thus far, Wake beat Florida State. LSU couldn't beat Florida State, but LSU could beat Mississippi State. I know you can break these down to all these things. Oh, this team played that one. But I just think right now Wake Forest's resume is better than Mississippi State, and their loss is better. So if Mississippi State keeps winning, obviously the SEC West is way better than the ACC Atlantic, and they would surpass them. Okay. Once again, this is just based on resume. This is not based on what I think. I think when you think about sports, what is the greatest sports stories ever? What's so great about sports is that because we never know. I mean, there's a reason why they make, whether it was Appalachian State against Michigan, whether it's, whoever wins the NCAA tournament, Jimmy V's 83 Wolfpack run, the fucking, Olympics, the hockey team, USA's hockey team, the movie Miracles based on them. Sports. I mean, if we were deeming what we think would win, then a lot of those Patriot teams that made the playoffs wouldn't have went to the Super Bowl. The first one specifically. First one, it was a wild card team, right? And they probably shouldn't have because of the Tuck rule. But I'm saying you could do this with the Steelers. Steelers had some magical runs from the wild card. The Giants, the year 07. So my point is that sports is not supposed to be what you think. Sports should be settled on the field. And that's why we won a large playoff, because I truly believe there's never been a national champion because of schedule manipulation, because all this crazy shit you can look up each year and I can bring you a case. Anyway, continuing on there, number 16, the first undefeated team that I'm going to say tonight, last ranked undefeated team by myself, is the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Coastal wins, and what a great game that was. There was a big hurdle by Coastal's running back, and I think it was their second string or third string running back, as they win at home against Georgia Southern in a barn burner. But this resume is not that great right now. Not that great actually at all right now, considering that Army lost to Georgia State, and Army currently has a losing record. Gardner Webb, who actually played Marshall pretty decently. However, Gardner Webb is not a winning team in the FCS currently. Granted, 2 of their games have been against FBS opponents. The Buffalo win looks a little bit better because Buffalo took down Miami, Ohio, but Buffalo is still 2-3, so they don't have a winning record. Georgia State beat Army, but kind of fucked them. From what I see is their body of work for Coastal Carolina, because Army was closer to being 500 than Georgia State was. So Georgia State wins there. And then Georgia Southern, who does have a win at Nebraska, Georgia Southern, their lone team with a winning record. So I do think it is the weakest resume in the, out of all the undefeated teams. Now they're undefeated. So, got to give them credit there, but, it is what it is. It is what it is. Their resume is by far the weakest for the undefeated teams, and I don't think many people would argue that to me. At number 15, I have the Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss, big win, awesome game. I loved watching that game. Like I said, it's probably my favorite game of the week to watch. That game was wild though, and they should be fortunate they escaped with a dub. But you look at their other resume, their other wins. Yes, okay, Troy beat Western Kentucky. That's a nice win for them. And I actually think Troy's better than their record. Troy lost that Hail Mary game to App State. That is, I think, one of their best wins. Central Arkansas is not very good. They have a losing record in the FCS. And then Georgia Tech. Actually, the Georgia Tech win looks a little bit better now because Georgia Tech went on the road to Pitt. Still, Georgia Tech's a team with a losing record, but resume did get a little bit better with that win. Maybe the Yellow Jackets can turn this into something. Their other win against Tulsa, which was an 8-point win, doesn't look as good. Tulsa loses by double digits to the Cincinnati Bearcats at home at H.A. Chapman Stadium. So, I mean, the resume is not very good. They've only been on the road once this year, and that was at Georgia Tech. They did win 42-0, which is impressive. Any Power 5 win, much like Wake at Vandy. I mean, if Vandy played Georgia Tech, I actually think I would take Vandy to win that game, but not by many points. It would be like Vandy minus 2.5 if it was up to me. But this is my point. When I mentioned UCLA winning at Colorado, I mean, you got to reward it for a Power 5 win, but it really doesn't tell you much. But Ole Miss is my team at number 15. At number 15 there. So 3802 in the chat says, "Hey Colby, if Clemson, USC, Ohio, and Michigan, etc., end up without a loss in the AP poll, on indication of the committee's thinking." What do you mean? If Clemson, USC, Ohio State, Michigan, etc., end up without a loss in the AP poll. Is that what the committee will be thinking? Sorry, I'm a bit challenged here. I think they would go. Well, what are we saying with Bama and Georgia? I think that matters too. But yes, I think that would probably be true. That they would line it up very similar to the AP poll. But I also think some things could be interesting. I think they would skip. Actually, the more I think about it, Ohio State and Michigan would probably go ahead of USC because the Big Ten's harder than the Pac-12. So, I think they would probably, even though USC's brand is strong, Michigan and Ohio State's is certainly that as well. But they would have USC over the loser probably of the Ohio State Michigan game. Does that make sense? Let me know if not. Next up at number 14, taking you to, speaking of the Ohio State Buckeyes, great segue there. You're going to say, how could I have Ohio State at 14? Well, they're one of the only teams. I think they might be the only team that hasn't hit the road yet this season. It's fucking ridiculous. It's fucking October. I mean, I get it. They're talented. They've looked good in pretty much every game. I guess the first half of the Arkansas State game, there was some concerns. The Notre Dame game, actually, maybe a little bit of concern there. Maybe the first quarter of the Rutgers game, but they've turned it on. They've looked really good, and we know they're extremely talented. But another thing is their wins kind of suck. Wisconsin just fired their coach. Notre Dame is 2-2. Arkansas State is 2-3. They did beat ULM this week, so that helps, I guess, a tiny bit. Toledo did take care of Central Michigan. Toledo's 3-2. So, and then what? Wisconsin's 2-3, and Rutgers is 3-2. But we know that's a bullshit 3-2. The resume is not very strong. Toledo played Rutgers. I'd probably take Toledo. Toledo's probably their best win on their resume right now, and that's a pretty shitty. I mean, I guess Toledo, Notre Dame. I kind of think I would. I don't know. I think I might take Toledo. Toledo played at Notre Dame last year, only lost by 3. Was winning with a minute left in that game. Kind of think Notre Dame's worse, and I kind of think Toledo's the same, if not a little bit better. The resume is not strong, and they have 0 road wins. I mean, shit. Ole Miss has been on the road. You know what? I probably should take. You know what? The more I think about it, I'm like, well, no, because Ole Miss played in FCS. At least Ohio State didn't play in FCS. So that's my reasoning for having Ohio State ahead of Ole Miss. Yes, Kentucky is better than everyone on Ohio State's resume, but to be fair, Arkansas State, who's the worst team on Ohio State's resume, is way better than Central Arkansas. So that's the logic there. Also, they've played 3 Power 5s. Ole Miss has only played 2. So that's the logic on me having the Buckeyes ahead at number 14. At number 13, I got the Michigan Wolverines. How could I have Michigan ahead of Ohio State? Let me tell you why. I know Michigan's at a conference schedule much softer than Ohio State's. Not even on the same planet as Ohio State's, right? But they played a road game and they won. Yes, Iowa is a team that you sit there and say, well, they're just 3-2. I do think Iowa's better than Rutgers, and I have proof of that because Iowa did beat Rutgers in Piscataway. So that is a way better win there. The fact they've won on the road at one of the toughest places to win in college football, that means a lot. And another thing is the Maryland Terrapins. They beat Michigan State. Maryland's only lost 1 game, and that was to Michigan. So that win is better. I think Maryland's better than Notre Dame. I said that. Yes. I never thought I would say that. Maryland is better than Notre Dame. Iowa, Notre Dame would be a game, but I think the fact that Notre Dame had to go to Columbus. It's completely different than having to go to South Bend. So I value that game way more. And then also UConn did beat Fresno State this past week. I know UConn sucks, but that win against Fresno State, nice win for Jim Mora Jr. I know UConn was without their starting quarterback and Fresno State's without their starting quarterback, but a win is a fucking win and you take that. So I do think their resume is better than Ohio State's currently. I know many might disagree, but next up, the Oklahoma State Cowboys are my number 12 team. Yes, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, nice win. I did not think they were going to, I actually felt pretty good about taking Baylor. I lost money on that game, but I was impressed with the way Oklahoma State looked. I know you can say, oh, they had a kick return and all this other stuff, but I'm sorry, but Gundy just has his teams ready to go a lot more frequently than I think. You know, like sometimes I look at it like, I don't know if they're ready for that, but Gundy just gets his guys up. And the resume, they have 2 Power 5 wins, and now they have a huge win in Waco against Baylor. They also have a terrible FCS on that schedule, but they also beat Central Michigan, who still has a losing record, but they're in the MAC. I think they're to compare their resume to Michigan's is, I think Baylor's better than Iowa. Now, yes, going into Iowa is probably harder than going into Waco, but if they were to play on a neutral field, I think Baylor is better than Iowa. Then I think it gets a little tricky after that. I think you could say, well, what about, Maryland and Arizona State? Maryland would beat Arizona State this year, folks. So yes, Michigan's second win does look a lot better, but I would also argue that Oklahoma State's third win looks better than anything on Michigan's resume. But then you could once again argue that, and this would be just a disgusting argument, but the Hawaii and Colorado State win is better than Arkansas Pine Bluff. Arkansas Pine Bluff is currently 2-3, and they just lost to Southern University by 56 points. And I think you're probably right. I think I would take Hawaii and Colorado State laying. With Colorado State, I'd probably lay double digits. With Hawaii, I think I would lay double digits, probably 10. So this is razor thin. And I just think Baylor is better than Iowa State. I'm sorry, not Iowa State, Iowa. I think Baylor's better than Iowa. And that's what it comes down to essentially. And I guess Central Michigan, I Central Michigan would beat Colorado State, UConn, and who's the third team there? Hawaii. So that's the logic there. I know that's really close, and I know you could really argue that. So another thing is I think, I don't know. I think OK State's win was more impressive. Like they were up by a bigger amount. I know that the final score that Baylor added on some points, but they were up like 24-3. I feel like at one point. Although Michigan was pretty convincing too. I think it's neck and neck right there. You could argue either or. You shouldn't be mad at either or. At number 11, the Jmu Dukes. Yes. How could I have a Sunbelt team? Their resume is nowhere as good as Michigan's or Oklahoma State's or even Ohio State's. It's true, but they also don't have the chance to. They're undefeated. And here's the most impressive thing. They really haven't. Okay. They sweat a little bit. They went on the road to App State, which that win looks all right because A&M's what they've beaten Arkansas. They've beaten Miami. They've beaten Sam Houston State. It's a decent win. It's a pretty good win. And I know you look at the other wins and say, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? Like they beat Middle Tennessee and Texas State. That's nothing in the Sun Belt. It's the fact they're blowing everyone out. They haven't they've really destroyed these teams. Yes, I know you can go through and say Middle Tennessee lost to UTSA. I'll tell you what, if Michigan and Oklahoma State win this week, I think I'll have them ahead of James Madison. But right now, I think the way that JMU has done it, they've been dominant in almost every quarter except for the first quarter of the App State game, right? I can see shooting holes in this ranking here, but like I said, what's the best team? Michigan's best win is Iowa. You telling me Iowa's better than Appalachian State? I think that's a game. Now, is it harder to win in Iowa City than Boone? Probably. Although I tend to think Iowa City, especially is hard and when it's cold, getting them that early, I think helped Michigan. I think Appalachian State could beat Iowa on a neutral site. I think I would favor Appalachian State, but it depends where that game would be at. And then what, Baylor? You can make a case. I do think Baylor's better than Appalachian State. So you might have something there, but what's the second? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's tough because Arizona State, if Arizona State played Middle Tennessee, we saw Arizona State lose to Eastern Michigan. I think Middle Tennessee probably beats Arizona State. That's my logic. Talk to me. I'm a man. I'm 40. GBO Farms in the chat says, "Are you laying points with JMU against Michigan though?" No. I mean, Michigan would be favored by a decent amount, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not. I get it. And these rankings will shake itself out. That's my point. Is the body of work right now? Like, I get it. I would take a lot of these teams to beat James Madison. I really would. I would take Michigan to beat James Madison. I would probably lay 17. Right. However, I'm looking at resume only. Michigan should be penalized for that ridiculous out of conference schedule. And right now, and even with that ridiculous out of conference schedule, the fact that JMU is in the Sun Belt and doesn't get a chance to play Power Fives, Michigan's going to get the opportunity to surpass them just because they're in a much more difficult conference. Although I think the Sun Belt might be better than some conferences maybe. So that's my logic there with James Madison at number 11. I know people will be like, this guy's a fucking idiot. Let's get to the top 10. But before I get to the top 10, I want to tell you we're brought to you by Trade Coffee. Yes. Look, Trade Coffee is this thing is awesome. They have a coffee team that actually finds the right coffee for you. Yes. I'm one of those people who drink a lot of coffee. Wasn't always that way. Before I met my wife, I feel like I barely had coffee, but now I drink a shit ton of coffee. And all I know is when I get my coffee from Trade Coffee, it's fantastic. NC Nick also gets it. It is absolutely fantastic. So let me tell you about Trade Coffee. It is a coffee subscription service unlike anything else you've tried before because they partner with top independent roasters to freshly roast and send the best coffees in the country directly to your home on your preferred schedule. And they have a team of experts that do all the work. They taste test hundreds of coffees from across the United States every month, and they have over 450 different coffees in the old warehouse there. So, I mean, they actually have you can actually do a lot here. Their coffee is so good. You can actually get like a collection of different styles of blends and shit. It is fantastic. Trade is the easiest way to get your very best tasting coffee delivered fresh when you need it. You've got nothing to lose because Trade guarantees you will love your first bag. If not, they'll work with you to find a replacement or give it to you for free. So if you want to support some good old small businesses going on in America here and brew up the best cup of coffee you've ever made at home, it's time to try Trade Coffee. Right now, Trade is offering our listeners a $30 off first order plus free shipping when you go to drinktrade.com/SGP. Once again, that's drinktrade.com/SGP for $30 off your subscription to the best coffees in the country. We're also brought to you by Odds Trader. Odds Trader is a place to compare odds from all the major sports books. You can also compare the different sign-up codes and promo codes from sportsbook to sportsbook to assure that you get the best deal possible. I mean, the app provides key game stats, player statistics, injury reports, projected game day weather, go on and on and on. It also has a bet tracker, which I love, organizes all my bets from sport to sport. So go to oddstrader.com/Blue Wire. Odds Trader, the number one site for all your game day bets. All right, we are back talking college football. Yeah, Trade Coffee's back. Holy shit, 3802. Let's go. The chat is rolling along, folks. Remember, subscribe on YouTube. We are on YouTube, youtube.com/The College Experience. And at number 10, dun 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 dun, I got the Syracuse Orangemen. I mean, I know they haven't been on the road yet, I know they haven't been on the road yet, but they've beaten better teams than Ohio State. I really believe that because you look at these wins right now that they have. Ohio State's got what? What's Ohio State's best win? Notre Dame. Notre Dame's 2-2. Toledo. It's Notre Dame or Toledo. Can't tell me otherwise. Well, Syracuse. First off, Syracuse has wins. They did go on the road. Actually, they went to UConn, but that doesn't really count. But at least they fucking went on the road. Ohio State, you didn't go on the road. All right. And that UConn win looks a little bit better after they beat Fresno. But I think the real thing is they beat Purdue, and Purdue just went to Minnesota and won. Purdue played Penn State mighty tough. Purdue's schedule's been pretty fantastic thus far. They also beat Louisville, and then didn't just beat them. They beat the shit out of Louisville, and Louisville has, I think Louisville's like a 6-6 team at the end of the year. However, they do have some nice performances. Louisville has done all right. They're not good, but they're not bad. Is Louisville better than Notre Dame? I don't know. I kind of think I would say Notre Dame -3. But I can tell you this. I think I would take Louisville to beat Toledo. I'll take Purdue to beat all of them. Right. And then they also have a win against Virginia. Now Virginia does suck. But if Virginia plays Rutgers tomorrow, who am I taking? I think I'm taking Rutgers. I think I would do Rutgers -2.5. It's that close. Either way, the Purdue win is really what's doing in here for Syracuse, and the fact they went on the road, even if it was at UConn. At least they fucking went on the road. All right. More points to you, Syracuse, at number 10 in the country. At number 9, I got the Clemson Tigers. Clemson. Clemson looked good. I mean, I'm one of these ones that did not think NC State's that good. I haven't thought they've looked that good all year. And I know I'm an ECU fan. So people say, oh, you just hate NC State. I do hate NC State, but I also believe what I see. There's a lot of schools I hate and I go, oh, they look good. Texas, for one of them. I hate Texas. They look pretty good this past week. Texas has shown me more in their losses than NC State have shown me in their wins. So I don't know. I just think Clemson. So Clemson's resume. Now here's the hard part here is the resume is not great besides the Wake Forest game and the NC State game. Like I said, I don't have NC State ranked. They did beat Wake Forest at Wake in double overtime. I do have Wake ranked. After that, La Tech not looking very good. They have one win against an FCS. That means nothing to me right now. Furman is currently 3-2 in the FCS. Just lost a game. And then you have Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech win actually got a little bit better, or the resume got a little bit better with that Georgia Tech win. But once again, Georgia Tech I honor, much like Vanderbilt, much like some of these other ones I've mentioned, Colorado. So that is my logic on having Clemson there. They do have a good road win, but they've only been on the road once. And that's at Wake. That is not a toxic environment. So I have Clemson at number 9. At number 8, I have the UCLA Bruins. Now here's how this can get tricky. Colby, how can you have Clemson ahead of UCLA? And I think this is a very debatable spot because UCLA has only been on the road once, and that was at Colorado. Colorado sucks. Clemson went on the road to Wake Forest and beat a ranked team. That win is a lot better. I get that, but it's to me the rest of the body of work. Now, this is where it can get nasty here because the second best win is Georgia Tech. So the best win is for in my opinion for Clemson is Wake Forest. The best win for UCLA is Washington, right? If Washington played Wake Forest, I would probably take Wake Forest. I think it's close though. I actually think that's a game. NC State is better than Colorado. 100% correct. But Louisiana Tech would get destroyed by South Alabama if they played. Like, I don't think Louisiana Tech's very good. South Alabama is actually pretty good, right? Then you have, well, actually no, yeah. Then you have Georgia. Actually, it'd be Georgia Tech, South Alabama, and I would take Georgia Tech. I'm sorry, I would take South Alabama to beat Georgia Tech. If I could talk, it'd be great. Yeah. So I have South Alabama beating Georgia Tech in that matchup. So obviously, so if you compare the resumes here, you have Wake Forest, Washington. I think the Wake wins a little bit better. NC State, Colorado. NC State wins a lot better. Right? So 2 favoring Clemson. Then your third ranks, South Alabama, I think is better than Georgia Tech. And then you have Bowling Green against Louisiana Tech. Ooh, that gets a little tricky. I would take Bowling Green, and then you have the FCS play each other, and I think I would actually take Furman. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe you know what? Let's do a cool. What is better? Because Clemson went to overtime against Wake Forest. Yeah, let's go UCLA. Let's put UCLA at 8. I think the fact that they didn't need to go to overtime, but I do think 3 Power 5s to 2, and especially considering 2 of the Power 5s have a decent record, and the fact you went to Wake Forest. But I will say this: even though at Colorado, the fan situations, it's probably harder to win at Colorado than at Wake from a fan standpoint of a toxic environment. However, Wake would beat Colorado by fucking 21 points, 28 points, something like that. Maybe even more. That one's close. I can kind of see myself talking myself into Clemson being 8 and UCLA 9, but I'm keeping it here. UCLA didn't need overtime against Washington. Let's go. At number 7, I got the TCU Horned Frogs. Wow. I mean, look, when I got up to a touchdown, I took TCU in a touchdown. I did not. I knew Oklahoma was not, like, I didn't call for Oklahoma to make the Big 12 championship this year. I called for Baylor and Kansas State, which I think I'm still going to be wrong on, at least Baylor. Probably. I mean, I still think there's a lot of craziness that can happen, but Oklahoma, I thought they would be down. I didn't think they would be 700 yards. They gave up almost 700 yards to TCU. So TCU, when you look at it, why am I ranking them that high if their best win is Oklahoma? Oklahoma has 2 losses. I do think Oklahoma's better than NC State. I think they would beat NC State tomorrow. And I do think Oklahoma Wake. I think I might take, that one's tough. I think I might take Wake, but I think that's like a 1-point spread to me. I think I'd do like Wake -1 or 2 against Oklahoma. Then here's the other part. TCU does have 2 road wins. So not only do they have that, they went on the road once again to Colorado, which is, you get back to the UCLA argument, but they also went at SMU. SMU's 500 right now, but I tend to think they're a little better than 500 when you consider their 2 losses are to Power 5 teams. I think SMU is actually somewhat decent. And then they have Tarleton State, and I don't know. I feel like that resume is better though. And another thing is the way they've done this. They've kind of blown out everybody. SMU made it an 8-point game, but after they got a touchdown, an onside kick, and another touchdown, like, I think TCU's performance on the field has been pretty fucking impressive. So I have the Horned Frogs. And I'll be honest, I was a skeptic of the Sonny Dykes hire and making me look like a fool. Number 6, they drop a little bit. I got the Tennessee Volunteers. And here's the logic here. Pitt lost to Georgia Tech. Tennessee had a bye week. Pitt lost to Georgia Tech. That's not good. All right. That was their marquee road win. And now that looks a little worse, in my opinion. Another thing is, well, they got Ball State did beat Northern Illinois. They got that going for them. But the Akron lost, and Florida did beat Eastern Washington, but that means pretty much nothing. So we didn't learn it. They got doctored more this week than they got helped. So with Pitt losing to Georgia Tech, they drop back a couple spots. Once again, this is based on resume. And I think that's why Tennessee deserves to be number 6 now. At number 5, I have the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia, you could say, wait, last week you had them further back, and Missouri's no good, but they almost lost to Missouri. Well, they didn't lose, and they went on the road and won. And at the end of the day, are you really going to say, oh, well, they only won by 4 points at Missouri? I mean, maybe if it comes down to another opponent playing Missouri at Missouri, potentially. But that Oregon win continues to look good. Oregon rolled Stanford, so that win got better. Samford won in the FCS ranks. South Carolina beat South Carolina State. That means nothing, but at least they didn't lose. Another thing is Kent State beat Ohio, even though it was in overtime. They won. So basically, all their schedule won, and also they went on the road and won. So now they have 2 road wins, and they've played 3 Power Fives, which is more than some other teams have. That is my logic for placing Georgia there. Now you could say, wait, Clemson's resume is better than Georgia's. I would disagree, mainly because, okay, I think Oregon, if Oregon plays Wake Forest, I don't know. It's kind of a pick. What do you do there? I ask you, Wake by 2, 1, Oregon by 1. I don't know. Then your second best team is probably South Carolina. Obviously, NC State, South Carolina play. I would take NC State, right? Not by much though. I mean, by 7, 10, something like that. After that though, you say Georgia Tech, Missouri. Well, I take Missouri. I think Missouri wins, and I think they probably win by double digits. After that, you say Louisiana Tech. Well, Kent State, I think, would roll Louisiana Tech. I really do. And then you have Samford and Furman. Well, guess what? We don't even need to debate that one because I believe Samford just beat Furman 34-27. Boom. There we go. Got it done. Next up, Georgia's resume is better than Clemson's. Next up at number 4, we have the USC Trojans. This is a little tricky, and I had a hard time. Part of me wanted to put USC at 5 and Georgia at 4, but it just comes down to this. USC hasn't played an FCS, and they're not going to because they don't play FCSs, and I reward that. But I'll say this: USC, the Rice win looks better. Like Rice actually looks pretty good this year. I think they might be contenders in the CUSA. They almost beat Houston 2 weeks ago. They just beat UAB and Louisiana. I think Rice, that win's actually going to pay off as a nice win for USC. However, Stanford got rolled by Oregon. That doesn't look great, but it is a Power 5 win. Fresno State just lost to UConn. It's a bad resume win. I mean, I get it. They were without Jake Haener, one of the best quarterbacks in America, but I mean, USC beat Fresno when Jake Haener got injured at, what was that? The half, right around. But the Oregon State win looks a little worse because they lose at Utah. So then you have Arizona State. Well, I don't think that win's very good either. The thing is this though, their best win is Oregon State. Georgia's best win is Oregon. I kind of think Oregon's better, or I kind of think Oregon State's better than Oregon, even though I know the records are different. But right now, I think you would have to say Oregon. I think this year you'll see. I think Oregon State's going to beat them. But then your second best win, you say, okay, South Carolina against Arizona State. I think I favor South Carolina by 7, maybe. So that's 2 in Georgia's favor. Then you get to Missouri and Stanford. That's a game. I tend to think Missouri. I don't know though. Missouri got rolled by Kansas State. I kind of think Missouri wins. I think Missouri by 3. So then you have 3 for Georgia, none in favor for USC. But I also think Rice and Fresno harder than Kent State, and I don't know. It's tough. That's a tough one. I kind of could see the resume being better for Georgia, especially, but no, I mean, another thing is Georgia almost lost to Missouri. So if you look at that, I get it. USC's only played 1 close game all year. The Oregon State game in Corvallis. Oregon State, that's hard. Corvallis is harder than Columbia, Missouri. I don't care what anyone says. I would rather play at Columbia, Missouri almost all the time than Corvallis in my years of watching college football. That's close though. I mean, Georgia, obviously I'd take Georgia to beat USC if they play tomorrow, but this is resume based. Basing this off resume, I think USC by a hair. by a hair. At number 3, I got the Alabama Crimson Tide. That, Alabama had a great weekend, not only because they rolled Arkansas. It's that Arkansas is still a team with a winning record. It's also that the Texas Longhorns rolled the West Virginia Mountaineers. So that helps the resume. So both those road trips, and then you factor in, they beat a third Power 5, even though it is Vanderbilt. I got to honor it, even though I tend to think it's a horrible win, but I got to honor it. And another thing is the way they've beaten everyone's ass except Texas. And then Utah State being the other win. Utah State, I don't know. They covered against BYU, but it's still not a great win. But I just think at Texas, at Arkansas, those 2 road wins against 2 winning teams. Find me a resume where you have 2. There's not many teams out there that have gone on the road and beaten 2 winning teams on the road. Now, could that change if Arkansas loses to Mississippi State this week? Yes, they'll be 500, and that win looks worse. And if Texas loses to Oklahoma this week, that they'll be 500, and that win looks worse. That's how it works right now. That's the resume. I think Alabama is got the 3rd best resume in the country right now. Now, if you compare Alabama to USC, USC's best win is at Oregon State. Alabama's best win, I think, is at Arkansas. I think Arkansas would probably beat Oregon State. It's a close game. Oregon State's quarterback cost them though. Like Arkansas having KJ Jefferson is the reason why I actually, the more that I think about it, I like Arkansas to beat Oregon State by even more. But after that, then you have what? Texas against who is USC's second best win again? It's Arizona State. Texas rolls them. It's Texas, so you never truly know, but I think Texas rolls them. Then at 3, you have Vanderbilt against Stanford. I think Stanford beats Vanderbilt, but I think that would be a game. Actually, we saw it last year. I think Stanford would beat them. I don't think it'd be a blowout though. I think it'd be like 28-21 or something. 35-28 or something like that. So 2 of the 3 go in Bama's favor. I know after that, then you can say, hey, Rice and Fresno State are better than ULM and Utah State. And I think you're probably right. I don't know about the Utah State Fresno thing though. We'll see. I think they play each other this year, so we'll see that. Either way, I got Bama at number 3. At number 2, I got the Kansas Jayhawks. Wait, what? How do I have the Jayhawks ahead of Alabama? This isn't based on if they played each other, folks. This is the resume. And the reality is that Kansas has played I think a tougher resume than Alabama. Yes, Alabama played at Arkansas and won. Is that better than any of Kansas's road games? Yes, I think it is. I think it is better than winning at West Virginia or at Houston. I do. But here's the thing. ULM and Utah State are and Vandy are those 3 wins. Okay. Tennessee Tech is on Kansas' schedule. So Bama has the better road win being Arkansas. They also have, what is the worst win? ULM for Bama. ULM is better than Texas or Tennessee Tech. So I would give them that, but they also played back-to-back away games. Kansas did at West Virginia and at Houston. They also beat Duke. Duke's 4-1. Duke won this past weekend. They also beat Iowa State, who is 3-2. So Kansas actually has, I think, a pretty decent resume when you consider what. I guess West Virginia lost, so 2-3. I just think they're more bad. I think they're 4 minus the Tennessee Tech game. I think then like Vanderbilt. Where would Vanderbilt be? I think Vanderbilt would be Tennessee. If Kansas played Vanderbilt, that would be their second easiest opponent, but after Tennessee Tech. I think West Virginia, Houston, Duke, and Iowa State are all better than Vanderbilt. But I will say this: Houston losing to Tulane on their 3rd string quarterback, kind of. I think Bama's close. I think the Bama beats A&M this week. I think I might. I don't know actually because Kansas is playing TCU. So I don't know. It'll all shake itself out though. I think Kansas's resume though and schedule is harder. Playing back-to-back away games, you have a very small chance of winning both of those. I want to say we pulled the numbers last year, and I want to say it was like to win both of those was like 7% to win both back-to-back away games. If that, I might be wrong on that. I got to pull up the numbers. Either way, it's something like that. It's like, it's a very low percentage of teams have done that. Look at Alabama. The last time they played back-to-back away games, they lost the Texas A&M stretch last year. So I have Kansas at number 2, and at number 1, even though it wasn't pretty, it was in a monsoon. I got Penn State. Did Penn State's resume get worse this weekend? It did. It did but I still think their road tests were harder than anyone so far. I really believe that. Going to at Auburn and the way they beat Auburn, LSU couldn't do that. They whooped Auburn's ass. Penn State did. And then they beat Purdue, and that Purdue win looks a lot better. Actually, so maybe it's a wash on the if their resume got better, because Purdue going to Minnesota and winning was a big win. And then I guess their other, I mean, obviously Auburn lost to LSU, so that hurt their resume. But at the same time, Ohio goes to overtime, loses, Central Michigan loses. So I'd say it's about a wash, if not a little bit of a loss. Either way, find me a team that at Purdue and at Auburn, I think, mixed in with also playing Northwestern. Even though Northwestern ain't a great win. That's a Vanderbilt win right there. That's a Vanderbilt win. But I think it's still the best resume. I still think it's the best resume to go into 2 hostile environments and win, and then take care of another Power 5 at home. And then the fact they haven't played an FCS. Shout out to Penn State. Penn State's still number 1 in my book, but it will get interesting because this week Penn State does not play. So I do think if Alabama wins and if Kansas wins, I think the first spot is up for grabs right now between those schools and also obviously the rest of the top 10. So folks, that is the Dantabase top 25. Once again, you want to take a look at that. I'm sure you could say this guy's a fucking idiot, but I'm basing it strictly off of resume. Once again, resume. Once again, right there. Penn State 1, Kansas 2, Alabama 3, USC 4, Georgia 5, Tennessee 6, TCU 7, UCLA 8, Clemson 9, Syracuse 10. Curious your thoughts. Feel free to hop in the chat or just drop us a comment wherever. That is my logic on Penn State being number 1. Folks, subscribe to the College Football Experience. We have a busy week ahead of us as this season continues on. I will have some. I'm going to drop a game preview for UCF and the Wednesday night game, UCF SMU at the Moonbounce. Fantastic that we have a Wednesday night game. Then obviously we have a DFS show. Come play DFS with us. We tweet it out every single week. We invite you to come play with us at TCE on SGPN. But also check out our FCS pod. We go through all the FCS games. And then obviously, like I said, Wednesday night, our big show, me, Patty C, NC Nick, we go through every single Division I FBS game, our pick show. And we've been doing that for over 5 years. Never had a losing season, folks. Picking every single game in college basketball and college football. Yes, I said college basketball. Check out the College Basketball Experience. We're doing our season preview episodes over there. So subscribe and tell a friend over there. We come together as one on YouTube at youtube.com/the college experience. Subscribe, tell a friend, and check out all of our other platforms. NFL Gambling Podcast. That season's I got the Niners game on right here, right? Check out the NHL Gambling Podcast. That's all preseason's already going. MLB Gambling Podcast, NBA Gambling Podcast. You go on and on and on. And what, NASCAR still doing it? Formula One still doing it. Check out all those. Formula One Gambling Podcast, NASCAR Gambling Podcast, MMA Gambling Podcast. Get the SGPN app in the App Store or Google Play Store. You'll have access to all of that. And also subscribe to all those and check out the Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. All right, folks, this is the College Football Experience, Dantabase Top 25 style. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
What the fuck did I do wrong? sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
And you're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, terror pussy. And I'm after you, buddy. You're gonna pay for it tonight.
It's easy to see a tide turn.
And you come into the best college football game in the land.
Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!
Coaching, our coaching did a horrible job. The players did a horrible job. We got our ass kicked in the second half. It sucked.